Hello, this is Kittens cycling in Ireland. Today is my second day in Amsterdam and I'm starting from my hostel early in the morning. Today's cycling is about 100 kilometers, which is quite long for Brompton. I first start from the Amsterdam north, go up to Zaanse Schans and then Purmerend, then head back to my hostel, take a little bit of break, and finally do Ijburg. And by the way, I apologize for all the wrong Dutch pronunciation that I'm doing in this video. So from the hostel to Zaanse Schans, where famous windmills are, it's about 30 kilometers.
What I meant by narrow margin is Dutch are so accustomed to this cycling infrastructure, amazing roads and everything. They cycle so tight with each other, and of course the cycling speed is nothing like the road bike. However, especially in the crowded areas like Amsterdam or Holland, I felt very uncomfortable because I think mainly it's because of my fault, because I'm not accustomed to these high standard cycling infrastructure. There are lots of times that I got confused, and not to cause any havoc, I just pulled over, giving a good hand signal, especially at the crossroads. And because of that, cycling in the Amsterdam city near the station area was not that pleasurable for me. However, these kind of roads, the best thing about, I think, Dutch cycling in the aspect of road cycling tourists who's from Ireland is this intertown connection is just absolutely mind-blowing. So quiet, completely separate from the road, car road. I can't even see the car road from here.
Speaking of the landscape, you can see there's lush green terrain all over the country. At a glance, it looks a bit like Ireland, but one thing that's obvious is that there's absolutely no mountains. Also, unlike the Irish countryside, where everything feels like a pure nature, Netherlands feels a bit more artificial with all these canals and reclaimed lands. After doing about 200 kilometers of cycling, for me who's accustomed to the Irish Atlantic way, it feels a bit too artificial. The reason why I'm stopping here is I was so surprised by the amount of the noise that's coming from the motorway. It's not loud, but unbelievably quiet. Because I've seen many motorway crossovers in Ireland, it was much louder. It seems that Dutch not only cares about the cycle lanes but also takes an enormous care on car roads. That means they are using the finest, most expensive asphalt to pave their roads. I heard this in Ireland from a friend who is working in the city council. Noisiest paving goes like from concrete, hot stone, coarse asphalt, and then fine asphalt. The latter being the quietest, but most expensive because they crack easily under the hard weather. Now here I've arrived at Zaanse Schans, and you can see the windmills. One of the big disappointments is that this whole place is completely off limits for flying drones. I brought my DJI Air 3S all the way from Dublin completely in vain. Even if it had been possible, I probably wouldn't have flown it anyway because there were so many people. I really don't want to draw unwanted attention, and nobody likes to hear drone noise when you are in such a beautiful, lovely landscape. So day 1, Lisa. Day 2, Zaanse Schans. A total failure for me when it comes to getting decent drone footage. So next time I'll do more research and visit places that are much less crowded and allow drones. You can also see here what happens in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, walking paths and cycle lanes are completely separated. You don't walk on cycle lanes. But many times I saw tourists carelessly stepping into the cycling lanes, upsetting a lot of local cyclists. I think people understand it here in Zaanse Schans because it's such a busy touristy place. But in other areas, I saw some dangerous situations where tourists were so focused on talking or taking pictures, and local cyclists had to narrowly avoid them. Like I mentioned in my first video, unlike Dublin or London, almost all cafes and restaurants here don't allow you to enter with your Brompton. Again, if I had folded it beforehand and put it in a bag so people couldn't see the bike, I think it would have been okay. But I didn't bring that bag, nor did I bring any lock with me. So most indoor visits were off limits for me. After Zaanse Schans, I added a small detour to cover a bit more distance in a small town called Purmerend, and I came across this lovely market. Now back to Amsterdam, took a little bit of rest and again continued my cycling. I really love this ferry, and I think it's a great example of how the city council is innovating its traffic system. The ferry is free and so convenient. You can ride a bike or just walk straight on. There are no barriers at all, and the ferry surface is completely level with the dock. It's an amazing experience, and it's only for pedestrians, bikes, and mopeds. Here at Central Station, I felt very uncomfortable cycling because I'm not accustomed to Dutch cycling rules. I couldn't believe how people were crossing paths without crashing into each other. Maybe they understand the flow, but I'm still a foreigner and a tourist. I was really nervous crossing the streets here. I also remembered that Amsterdam has one of the world's best underground bike parking facilities. So I wanted to experience it for a bit. And I asked the gentleman here if I can take a quick look around?
Actually, I'm just looking to see the famous Amsterdam. Okay, yeah. Can I go? Yeah. Okay. I'll be coming in about 5 minutes. No problem. Yeah.
And I imagine this place is very safe, with lots of CCTV cameras and security guards. But still, there's no guarantee that I can park my T-Line Brompton safely here. You know, Amsterdam is known as a bike-friendly city, but there are still thieves, and my T-Line isn't that cheap. I also noticed that there were no high-end bikes here, the kind of that cost around 10 to 20,000 euros. Most of them were just everyday, easy to ride, comfortable bikes.
Thank you.
And now, as you can see, I'm coming out from the parking lot and heading up into Amsterdam station. And one thing you might notice on the right side, the guy suddenly made a pretty abrupt stop there because people had been waiting for cyclists to stop for quite a while. For me, this was really interesting. In most European cities, including Dublin, where I'm from, when there's a pedestrian crossing, pedestrians are king, then cars and cyclists. However, here in Amsterdam, it feels like even at a pedestrian crossing, if it's a cycle lane, then cyclists are king and pedestrians come second. You know, as a cyclist myself, in a way, it's understandable. Pedestrians can easily stop and start again, but cyclists have to get off the saddle and start pedaling from scratch, which can be a bit cumbersome. Still, it was a little shocking at first, and obviously in places like Amsterdam Central, where so many cyclists pass through, pedestrians sometimes have to wait a really long time just to cross the cycle path safely. And finally, to wrap up today's ride, I went to a place a bit east of Amsterdam, and it looks like a newly developed area called Ijburg. I am going there because on Google Maps I saw an amazing bike bridge, a cycling and walking bridge, which is this one right here. It actually looks pretty fascinating. It almost looks like a motorway interchange. I think structures like this really show how seriously Amsterdam and the Netherlands in general take cycling infrastructure. So that's it for my second day trip in Netherlands, Amsterdam. Tomorrow I'll visit the Amsterdam Brompton store again to store my bike and do a quick bike check. And hopefully I can leave the bike there for an hour or two so I can walk around the canal area and visit some museums I want to see. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in my next video.